3 hours of spine-chilling night shift tales. Revealed horrors exposed in the cursed rain. The rain poured down like a torrent of shadows, cold, relentless, washing over everything in its path. Sarah tightened her grip on the steering wheel, the wipers struggling to keep the windshield clear. Every corner of her quiet New Jersey suburb felt like a scene pulled from a horror movie tonight. Her heart thumped hard as she glanced at the clock. Time was slipping away, and she had to get to work. Leaving Tommy with Mrs. Henderson felt wrong in her gut, but she had no choice. The wind howled, almost like a warning, as she drove through the murky streets. Streetlights flickered like dying fireflies, casting eerie shadows that danced menacingly around her. The hospital loomed ahead, its fluorescent lights flickering, a beacon of sterile madness. Inside, the familiar white walls felt different tonight, every whispered echo of past patients reverberating through the quiet halls like a chilling reminder of lives once lived. It didn't help that her phone buzzed with alerts, another person missing from their suburban sanctuary. Another face she recognized but wished she hadn't. She was not alone in feeling unsettled. Lurking dread seemed to weave through the air as she passed the nurse's station, the shift supervisor giving her a curt nod. It felt as if the hospital itself breathed around her, closing in. Just then, a flicker in the corner of her eye caught her attention. A shadow darted, quick and uncertain. Forcing herself to move on, she felt the hairs on the back of her neck rise, her instincts screaming at her to run. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the hours dragged on, the alerts kept coming, escalating her anxiety like a slow-motion train wreck. Faces flickered through her mind, neighbors chatting over fences, sharing cookies, laughing at summer barbecues. Now they were potential victims in the wild panic rolling through the neighborhood. Every chime of her phone made her veins freeze. A predator in the suburbs? How could that be? Was it someone she had trusted? The rain outside thundered, drowning everything in white noise. Whispers echoed through the empty corridors, chilling her to the bone. Shadows played tricks on her tired mind. Were those footsteps she heard? Heart pounding, she peered down the hallway, the lights flickering above her like a heartbeat that quickened in response to terror. The smell of antiseptics only added to the fear curling in her stomach. Then a sudden realization paralyzed her. She only had to survive this night to get back to Tommy. The thought of facing whatever was lurking in darkness sent a surge of fear through her. She felt isolated, a mother consumed by dread, spiraling with no one to confide in. Her stomach twisted as she recalled Mrs. Henderson's stories, tales of the dark secrets of their little community. Trust had been a fragile line, one she couldn't afford to snap. Just as she turned to head to the nurse's lounge, the flickering lights went out completely, swallowing her in darkness. A shadow flitted just behind her in the glass. Whipping around, her breath caught in her throat as her instincts screamed she was not alone. The sanctuary she thought she could depend on morphed into a prison filled with whispers and shadows. The storm raged outside as she stood poised on the precipice of fear. Tommy's innocent laughter echoed in her mind, tugging her back to reality. But reality was now a disorienting whirl of danger and deceit. Would she find the truth before the night claimed something precious? A chilling thought sank in. Who could she truly trust? As the clock approached midnight, Sarah steeled herself, staring into the abyss that awaited her. The darkness enveloped Sarah, wrapping her in a cloak of fear and uncertainty. Each second felt like an eternity as her breath quickened, cutting the thick silence. The faint thud of her heart echoed in her ears. The shadows, once harmless memories of her day-to-day life, transformed into lurking phantoms, taunting her with their mere existence. She fumbled for the flashlight clipped to her belt, a comforting weight against her hip. The beam sliced through the void, illuminating the stark white walls, but it only amplified her unease. The light caught the edge of a flickering poster warning about infection control. What irony. Fear of germs had never felt this palpable. "Sarah?" A voice echoed from the hallway. It was soft, almost too soft, sending a chill through her. She strained to listen, hoping for familiarity, but the voice faded like whispers lost in the wind. "Hello?" she called, knowing how foolish it sounded. No answer came, only the distant sound of the rain hammering on the roof. Each drop felt like a countdown, ticking toward an unspeakable fate. The shadows shifted, and Sarah's instincts kicked in. With quick steps, she made her way toward the emergency room, the one area bustling with life during the day. What she found there left her gasping in horror. The room was empty, but it looked as though a struggle had taken place. Equipment lay strewn across the floor, a heart monitor ominously still, and a chair overturned. A pile of medical supplies, not retrieved in haste, spilled out like spilled secrets. "Stay calm," she whispered to herself, trying to anchor her fluttering heart. "Just find someone, anyone." A sudden crash echoed from deep within the hospital, a sound that reverberated in her bones. It sent her heart racing faster. What was happening? Panic surged, and she pressed on, her thoughts spiraling into a tumult of dread. Each shadow that passed felt like it had a life of its own, stalking her, waiting for the moment to strike. Determined not to succumb to despair, she veered through the corridors, the beam of her flashlight flickering nervously, urging her onward. As she moved through the maze of hallways, she felt the weight of every unanswered question. Why were people disappearing? Was this all connected? Suddenly, she rounded a corner and skidded to a halt. There, standing at the far end of the corridor, was a figure shrouded in darkness. The breath caught in her throat as she strained to make out any details. The eerie glow of the emergency lights above created a halo around the figure, obscuring their face. "Who are you?" she shouted, her voice shaking. A low laugh echoed back, sending shivers skittering down her spine. In the fleeting instant, the figure moved closer, the darkness wrapping around them like a second skin, revealing the glint of something sharp in their hand. "Did you really think you could hide from the truth?" The voice crooned, a sinister melody that felt too familiar, yet terrifyingly foreign. It sent a wave of icy recognition through her. Reverberating memories filled her mind as she struggled to place the voice. "Tommy," she breathed, and the name felt heavy, charged with urgency and loss. Every instinct screamed for her to flee, but she was rooted in place, the overwhelming force of dread pinning her down. The figure stepped forward, and in that moment, the truth began to unravel, a tapestry woven with the darkest strands. It was coming for her, and she needed to know who it was before it was too late. With every second counting down, she had to confront her fear or be engulfed by it forever. The clock ticked, and she wondered, was this night just the beginning? What awaited her in the heart of the storm? The figure loomed closer, its features still shrouded in darkness. With each step, Sarah's pulse quickened, the growing dread tightening its grip around her heart. The air vibrated with an ominous tension, making her throat dry. "Tommy, is that really you?" she whispered, her voice wavering. But the figure didn't respond. Instead, it stepped into the flickering light, and Sarah's breath hitched in her throat. It was him, but something was terribly wrong. His eyes gleamed with a maddening hunger, and his lips curled into a twisted smile that didn't reach his eyes. Sarah, always searching, always scared. She took a step back, panic blooming in her chest. "What happened to you? I thought you were gone." Memories of laughter shared, secrets whispered in the dark, rushed back. She felt sick. "You're not him." "Oh, but I am." Tommy's voice resonated, an echo laced with malice. "And I found the truth now. You should have joined me, Sarah." What truth? She needed to know, but the way he said it sent electric shivers through her body. "Did you really believe the hospital was a sanctuary? The only place it could save you?" He laughed, low and haunting, drowning out the sound of the rain that continued to batter the building. "You're surrounded by the infected, Sarah. They're closer than you think." The shadows shifted again, and for a fleeting moment, the walls seemed to pulse with grotesque figures just outside the reach of her flashlight. Shapes moved with a serpentine grace. Whispers began rising like smoke. "Join us, see what we see," they murmured, voices twisted as if echoing from beyond the grave. She stumbled backward, fear flooding her veins. The stories of unknown beings in the hospital, the disappearances and screams, flooded her mind like water spilling from a broken dam. She had turned deaf ears to the warnings. Now they wrapped around her like chains, pulling her down. "Sarah, you must open your eyes," Tommy urged, his voice softening momentarily into something like concern. "Don't be afraid of what's out there. Join me. Let the darkness in. It's liberating." "No, you're wrong." The words burst from her lips with a fervor she didn't feel. "You're not my friend anymore. You're a monster." His laughter echoed, blanketing her in icy dread. The shadows pressed closer, creeping along the walls like liquid night. "You'll see. You can't fight it. It's just the beginning. We're all just pieces of a bigger picture." That single phrase ignited a surge of fury within her. "I want to let you take me." She turned to run, desperate to escape the horror in front of her. But as she sprinted down the corridor, she felt the tug of cold fingers grazing her neck, pulling at her very essence. Each corner she turned felt like a calculated trap, the hallways narrowing, the emergency lights flickering more violently. The oppressive darkness roared back, wrapping around her, merging with her fears. The trappings of reality began to shatter, and she glimpsed a kaleidoscope of nightmarish visions. People howling in pain, twisted faces lurking in shadows, and crimson laughter dripping down the walls. Her flashlight flickered once more, dimming rapidly. She pressed further into the heart of the hospital, knowing that whatever darkness awaited her, she had to face it head-on. She couldn't be alone. She had to find someone, anyone. But as she pushed forward, she heard the chilling melody once again, echoing off the walls. "You'll join us, Sarah." It's inevitable. What awaited her around the next corner? Was there truly any escape, or merely more horrors concealed in the flickering shadows? The walls trembled, and fear coiled tightly around her heart as the realization settled in. Some doors, once opened, could never be closed again. Would she be lost in that haunting labyrinth forever? The darkness tightened around Sarah like a vice, ensnaring her with each hurried step. She pressed on, heart racing, every instinct screaming for her to turn back. But turning back felt like an admission of defeat, like surrendering to the madness that had consumed Tommy. The flickering light from her flashlight painted the walls with shadows, making them shiver and sway in the corner of her eyes. She rounded another corner and skidded to a halt. The corridor stretched longer than before. It shouldn't have looked this way. Dread pooled in her stomach as she peered down its length. The walls groaned, echoing the haunting melody drifting through the air. "Join us." It twisted and echoed, wrapping around her consciousness like fog, and she fought against it, teeth grinding until she tasted blood. Suddenly, a shuffling sound broke the illusion. Her hands shook as she steadied the flashlight. It was a figure, stumbling toward her, limbs moving at unnatural angles. She squinted, recognizing the disheveled hair, the hospital gown torn and stained, yet something about its gait was wrong. "Help please," the figure croaked, voice cracking like dry twigs underfoot. "Is that?" Sarah leaned in, her heart pounding with a mix of hope and fear. And then she saw the eyes, or what was left of them. They were sunken, vacant, as if a part of that person was eternally lost, consumed. "No, get away," she screamed, stepping back, but it lunged forward, knocking into her with a sickening force. Its breath reeked of decay, a smell so potent it seared her nostrils. She shoved it away, image after image flashing through her mind: a friend, a neighbor, both chewed by the infection. It wasn't just Tommy. It was everyone. The figure toppled, hitting the ground with a dull thud and rolling onto its back. It gurgled, trying to scramble toward her again, but only met with its own convulsions. She backed away, horrified, her mind spiraling into chaos. What was happening? How could anyone turn into these monsters? Sarah came a whisper that froze her blood. "You can't leave us. Her back hit the wall, and she fumbled through her thoughts. "What do you want from me?" she shouted, desperation and fear fighting for dominance in her voice. The shadows around her thickened, gathering like a storm brewing in the distance. "Join us," the chorus grew louder, voices echoing in a sick symphony of yearning. Images flooded into her mind, a gathering of lost souls, trapped against their will, masquerading as friends and family. A sick thrill of terror pricked at her, and she knew in her gut she was being drawn in, baited like prey. With a burst of adrenaline, she dashed past the struggling figure, weaving through the darkness. She had to find a way out. But as she turned again, the sound of laughter erupted around her, echoing in manic delight. They were closing in, shadows coiling around her feet as if to drag her down. "Run, Sarah!" "The door!" came a voice, piercing through the cacophony. But which door? They all looked the same now, walls breathing as she stumbled through the distorted corridors. The air turned icy, and every instinct told her to find the nearest exit. Then she spotted it, an emergency exit, dimly glowing with unnerving anticipation. She raced for it, the laughter behind her growing louder, more ecstatic, urging her to turn back, to embrace them. Just as she reached for the handle, cold fingers gripped her wrist. "You can't escape." Sarah Tommy's familiar yet twisted voice seeped into her mind, pulling her into the vortex of panic. She wrenched her arm free and hit the door with all her strength. The door swung open, but what lay beyond was not the safety of outside. No, it was a yawning abyss, a void darker than the night she had just traversed. Standing at the threshold, uncertainty clawed at her. Knowing she could be trapped forever, she hesitated. Should she leap into the abyss, or face the horrifying entities behind her? The shadows advanced, a monstrous wave of darkness, and just as she committed to her next step, the ground beneath her crumbled away, swallowing her in. Chaos. What awaited her in that terrible void? Would she finally reunite with the truth, or would she become another whisper in the dark? The fall was dizzying, a spiral of shadows and whispers tugging at her, threatening to engulf her entirely. Sarah felt time lose all meaning as she plummeted deeper into the void. She braced for impact, but the sensation of hitting something solid never came. Instead, she floated in an eerie stillness, suspended in dark air, her body weightless and filled with dread. Suddenly, the abyss shifted. A dim light flickered ahead, drawing her like a moth to a flame. She pushed against the void, moving toward it, every instinct in her screaming to flee and yet compelling her to investigate. As she approached, the light revealed what seemed like a twisted version of the hospital's waiting room. But everything felt wrong. The colors were warped, the furniture grotesquely contorted, and an unnatural silence pressed against her ears. She stepped inside, heart racing. The flickering light overhead cast unsettling shadows, distorting familiar objects into nightmarish shapes. A cracked painting of a family eyes gouged out hung crookedly on the wall, and the scene appeared to melt away, seeping into the floor. Sarah, the voice floated in from the other end of the room, soft and alluring. "You have to help us." With every breath, the room seemed to expand and contract around her. "Who are you?" she shouted, voice trembling. "What do you want?" Out of the shadows, figures began to form. One, a gaunt woman with matted hair and a strange gash on her forehead, stepped forward. "We are all that's left," she whispered, her eyes glistening with despair. Trapped in between we want to be free instinct kicked in, and Sarah took a step back, bumping into a twisted chair. "No, you're not real. This is all a trick." A laugh echoed in the room, mocking and painful. "You think you can escape this reality? We are fragments of your past, memories you can't outrun." The ground beneath her trembled, causing the shadows to dance wildly. Sarah's breath quickened. Memories flashed in her mind, peaceful laughter at barbecues, sunny summer afternoons with her friends now darkened by the horrors she had witnessed. You're lying," she screamed, clutching her head. "Don't be afraid," the figures urged, their voices mingling into a disjointed chorus. "Join us, be freed from this suffering." "Join what? Become like you?" The disgust erupted from her, hot and fiery. "No, you are wrong. I want tea." The gaunt woman lunged, reaching toward her with skeletal fingers. Panic surged through Sarah, and she darted sideways, crashing into a table that shattered into shards that clawed at her skin. Screams echoed in her mind and mingled with the laughter that filled the room. She ran, heart pounding, weaving past the figures that reached for her like vines. The walls pulsed as though alive, trapping her in their grotesque embrace. "Sarah," a harsh whisper sliced through the chaos. "You must go back. Don't lose yourself here." But whose voice was it? The recognition twisted her stomach. Could it be Tommy, still trying to reach her? She turned and saw a shadow shift within the chaos. Something familiar, yet enveloped in darkness. The chill that slipped down her spine was almost unbearable. "Help us!" the figures cried, their voices now merging into a desperate howl. "You belong with us, Sarah. You need us." As terror clawed inside her chest, she charged toward that shadow. "Tommy!" she shouted, desperation propelling her. "Where are you?" The shadow morphed, forming a vague shape that flickered and distorted with the light. "You have to make a choice." Tommy's voice rang clear, piercing through the din. And just as she reached out, the room shattered around her, splintering into 1,000 pieces, collapsing into the blackness and sending her screaming into the air once again. In an instant, she was pulled back into the abyss, a void of sound, light, and time. Alone again, or just beginning to realize what she had truly awakened. In the silence that followed, Sarah felt it a pull, a magnetic force urging her to dive deeper, to embrace what lay beneath. But what lay hidden beneath the surface? Would she even recognize herself anymore? She shuddered, heart thumping wildly, ready to plunge into the depths of her own fear. The darkness wrapped around Sarah like a thick blanket, pressing against her chest. She felt every heartbeat pulse in her ears, each thrum echoing louder than the last. Just as she steadied herself, a sharp gust of wind whipped through the void, whispering words she couldn't comprehend. Panic flared anew, and she flinched, her body instinctively curling into itself. Then, the pull became undeniable, a force dragging her deeper still. Voices, low and raspy, surged around her. "You can't escape what you are," they murmured, blending together like a sinister choir. "Your past clings like shadows in the night again." She felt the urge to scream, but the sound was swallowed by the thick void, leaving her breathless. It was as if the air had turned to lead. She thought wildly of escape, but where would she go? This domain defied logic, a twisted realm of memory and despair. Each flicker of thought only deepened her sense of entrapment. The darkness flickered slightly, revealing fleeting images, faces she recognized, and far more familiar than she wanted. They were her friends, her parents, but their smiles were discordant, stretched and warped in horror. Lips twisted and mouths moved, but the sounds were smothered by the thick silence that followed. They looked at her with eyes filled with guilt, anger, desperation, layers of unresolved history. "Sarah, help us!" The most familiar voice, the one that haunted her dreams, echoed louder now. "Tommy, is it really you?" she thought, struggling against the force pulling her. "What happened to you?" Suddenly, the shimmering patches of light scattered. One caught her eye, pulsating gently like a heartbeat. She hesitated, fear mixing with hope. What if it was a trick? What if it led her deeper into the nightmare? Yet, she was drawn in like gravity had redefined the rules of this darkness. With a shuddering breath, she propelled herself toward the flickering beacon. As she approached, the light expanded, revealing a new grotesque scene. It was a hospital room, barbed walls and donning cages instead of beds, which felt all too familiar. It buzzed like an electric fence, then crackled to life, a halting reminder of her experiences. "Tommy," she cried, her eyes narrowing, searching frantically. "Where are you?" A figure emerged slowly from the shadows, limping, body warped as if trapped in an old movie reel. Sweat glistened on their forehead, features flickering. It was the boy she once knew, the boy she believed would cherish her forever. Sarah, his voice was a whisper wrapped in static. You need to choose. Are you ready to join me? What do you mean? Confusion swallowed her as she felt the shadows grasp at her ankles. What's happening? Tommy, what do I have to do? Face your demons, he urged, reaching out with a hand that seemed to fracture as he moved. They are coming for you. You can't keep running. The walls vibrated with the sound of howling, angry forces clawing for her attention. Shadows slithered along the floor, writhing toward her, hungry and relentless. Choose, Sarah. Tommy's face twisted. Darkness loomed behind him, swallowing the brightness. Fear coiled tightly around her throat, choking her thoughts. The memories, the laughter, the pain, the laughter that had twisted into screams consumed her too. How much longer could she deny it? Then, as if the abyss could sense her hesitance, it expanded, drawing her into its depths further as the shadows whispered viciously. Join them, let go. Desperate, Sarah lunged forward toward Tommy. I want to be trapped here, she shouted, hoping he could save her. But just as their fingers barely brushed, the light flickered, and darkness swept in, shoving her back. The voices shrieked, echoing the horror of her own mind. Will you choose to stay, or will you fight? The last words echoed in the consuming void, leaving her suffocating in uncertainty. And in that silence, the darkness began to shift once more, folding into itself like a giant maw. Faint silhouettes swirled again, beckoning her ready to reveal the truth hidden beneath. What awaited her now? Would she become one with her ghosts or ignite the fight within? Would she comprehend the monstrous reality threatening to unravel her very existence? The shadows pulsed like a living thing as Sarah teetered on the edge of despair. The shimmering light, so close before, fell into the darkness as if grasping at breath, her lifeline dwindling, slipping away. Anxiety gripped her, tightening like a vice, dragging her under. Tommy, she cried, desperation cutting sharp through the thick fog. The darkness inhaled, drawing closer, breathing in her fear, feeding off it. She could feel it swelling around her, thickening in an insatiable hunger. The room flickered and then exploded in flashes of eerie light. Hospital tools, once sterile and benign, clattered in chaos. Gurneys chained against the walls rattled with life, ratcheting the tension. An overwhelming stench of antiseptic mingled with decay, a pungent reminder of what had been a reality twisted far beyond recognition. Each sound was a reminder of dread. Join me, Sarah. Tommy's voice echoed, deeper now, layered with unnerving urgency. You can't escape your fate. What fate? The question ripped from her throat. What do you know? Frightened eyes scanned the remnants of her childhood memories scattered among the corruption. Flickering lights illuminated faces twisted with pain, cries of anguish. They were her past, trapped, unable to let go of the tether that bound them to her. A cold shiver ripped through her as the truth settled like ice in her veins. She remembered every moment, the moments she buried deep in denial. Friends' laughter turned into mocking echoes. The faces of those she had wronged twisted into grotesque parodies. Help us, they pleaded in delirium, each word a stake through her heart. Suddenly, the room erupted as the shadows lunged, twisting into forms that were familiar yet horrifying. Dark figures with hollow eyes lunged towards her, their gaping mouths moving in synchronized screams. She staggered backward, heart racing, crashing into a wall that trembled under her weight. Face your demons. Tommy's voice roared louder, bouncing off the walls of her mind like a thunderclap. You can't run anymore. No, she yelled, shaking her head as if denying the truth could alter her reality. But the shadows closed in, encircling her like ravenous wolves. They were her failures, her fears morphing into tangible threats. Light exploded again, brighter this time, illuminating a gruesome scene. Tommy's body, crumpled on the floor, a ghost of his former self. Torn flesh, blood slick on tiles. You left me, he croaked, agony etched across his features. Now you too will join the eternal night. Tommy. The word tore free, a raw reflex, desperation clawing at her chest. Her heart raced, pounding like a drum signaling surrender. I never meant to. Her voice shrieked, battling the engulfing shadows. I didn't want this. The walls trembled as an inevitable truth coalesced. The darkness surged, hungry and vengeful, as if responding to her struggle. Yet deep within a part of her surged a flicker of defiance. Fight! She screamed at herself, a reminder of the life outside these haunted memories. But then the abyss deepened, swirling, hungry. Would her fight matter? The figures loomed larger, their whispers intoxicating. You belong with us, and then she felt it, powerful like a wave crashing down, a surge of anger exploding within. No, I will choose my path. But the lights flickered violently, threatening to extinguish her spark. The shadows pulsed, ready to suppress her voice, ready to absorb her whole. With a newfound resolve, Sarah lunged into the darkness, her scream melding with the cacophony around her. It was the final plunge, the choice that would either shatter her or reclaim her soul. But as she disappeared into the void, the figures behind her shrieked in judgment. Are you sure you want to face the truth? They taunted, their voices blending in horrifying harmony. The question echoed in the extinguished silence, heavy with dread. What truth awaited in the heart of this terror? In the depths of shadow, the answer whispered like a scream, a promise of reckoning. The darkness swallowed her whole. Sarah felt the crushing weight of despair wrap around her, ready to drag her into an endless void. But within that consuming blackness, a spark flickered. It pulsed with an unyielding energy, an ember of hope refusing to die. Remember, a voice whispered, faint yet insistent. It cut through the haze, creating fissures in the darkness surrounding her. You are stronger than the shadows. Who is there? She shouted, her voice shattering the eerie silence. Desperation chased her words into the abyss. Look within, the voice urged. Face the memories buried in your heart. Each painful memory surged forward, flooded with haunting clarity. She staggered, feeling herself tossed around like a leaf in a storm. Laughter morphed into screams, the faces of her past twisted in agony, clawing for her. Images of joy turned grotesque, the weddings, the moments of triumph, shattering into shards of guilt. Tommy, she screamed, desperation rekindling. What do you want from me? Your truth. The shadows shuddered but held their ground, a chaotic mass of writhing dread. Sarah could feel them looming nearer, hungry for her fear, craving her anguish. Fight it! Her heart raced, pounding a frantic beat against her ribcage. She inhaled sharply, pushing through the remnants of her shattered facade. I refused to yield. The air crackled with energy, hurtling her back into a vivid memory, a schoolyard under a bleached sun. Laughter echoed through the trees. She and Tommy raced across the grass, innocent and free. But then, darkness swept in, a cloud that blotted out the joy. The laughter faded, turned into cruel taunts from her past, voices from friends she'd abandoned, echoes of the whispers that haunted her. Sarah, you will never escape, they bellowed, a chorus of betrayal wrapping around her throat. Stop it, she cried, clutching her head. I won't let you take me. Suddenly, the memories fractured, and she was thrown into a night steeped in horror. The sky was on fire, reflecting the chaos in her heart as she yelled for help. Her friends lay scattered, lost to the chaos. She remembered the terror etched on their faces, their silent pleas. Had she turned her back on them when they needed her most? No, a sob clawed its way up her throat. Then she saw it, a pulsing light deep within the shadow, shimmering like a beacon of hope. It was her will to survive, the connection to all that was good. Her body moved instinctively toward the light, but the shadows grasped at her, unrelenting and malicious. You cannot go where you do not belong. A voice roared, echoing through the void. I have to try, she gasped, forcing the words past trembling lips. The light pulsed back, as if inviting her in. Each step toward it ignited a fire in her chest. Hands trembling, she reached out, feeling warmth seep into her cold skin. But just as she grasped the edge of light, the shadows erupted, swirling violently. You think you can escape us? You are ours. They reached for her, stretching like tendrils of smoke, desperate to reclaim their prey. "No!" she screamed, an ultimatum wrapped in pure defiance. She pulled back, resisting the pull of the darkness. "I wasn't the reason for your pain. I can't save you, but I can save myself." The shadows screeched, a cacophony of rage and despair. The light swelled, tearing into the abyss. And in that blinding moment, she felt both. Both light and darkness converged. A truth born from her struggles: she was more than her past. And then, everything went black. When Sarah opened her eyes, she was no longer in the hospital room but in a twisted realm where time stretched like taffy. Water dripped from rusted pipes, echoing in rhythmic beats. The walls were smeared with soot and covered in makeshift drawings, frantic scrawls of emotion, portraits of those she had lost. "Welcome back, Sarah," a hushed voice cooed from the shadows. Slinking forward, a figure cloaked in darkness. Yet piercing bright eyes shone through. "The truth is waiting. Will you follow it, or will it consume you?" Her heart hammered. The choice loomed, ominously, a riddle that twisted in her gut. What awaited her on this path, the truth or another descent into madness? Sarah's mind raced as the figure stepped closer, shadows clinging to its form. Panic churned in her stomach, but a flicker of curiosity ignited within her. Who was this? What truth did they speak of? "Why do you hide in the dark?" she demanded, forcing her voice to remain steady despite the tremor in her limbs. "What do you know about me?" The figure chuckled softly, a sound that bounced eerily against the walls, like the echoes of a taunting memory. "I know more than you think. I know about the choices you made and the costs you paid." The voice dripped with a sickly sweet malice that made her skin crawl. "Show yourself," she shouted, stepping forward without thinking, as if challenging the darkness to reveal its secrets. With a slow, fluid motion, the figure pushed back the cloak just enough to expose a face half hidden in shadow. Familiar yet distorted, like a reflection in shattered glass. "Tommy?" she gasped. The name felt heavy on her tongue, each syllable weighted with years of guilt. "Ah, sweet Sarah. It's been so long," his voice faltered, turning into a low growl. "You ran from me, from us. You abandoned your truth. The others cry out for you still." "Stop." The memories surged uninvited, like a flood overwhelming her defenses. She could almost hear the muted screams of her friends, feel their desperation echoing through her skull. "You're not real." "Oh, but I am," he sneered. "A part of you, a dark part that you can't shake off. You think you can just erase your past? Forget those who suffered? Enough!" she yelled, trying to fight the rising swell of dread. She turned on her heel and dashed down the corridor, determined to escape this twisted nightmare. The shadowy figure followed, gliding silently, a predator with a sickening grace that made her heart race. Every step she took resonated against the damp floor, each echo overshadowed by the heavy breathing of the darkness behind her. The atmosphere throbbed, as if the very walls were alive and watching, hungry for her despair. She pushed through a doorway that led into a cavernous room. The space was even darker, punctuated by flickering lights. Scrawled phrases adorned the walls, warnings and pleas from lost souls who had walked this path. "Stop running. Embrace your fate. You're not safe." The words bled into Sarah's mind, taunting her, amplifying the persistent dread. "Running won't save you." Tommy's voice sliced through the air, echoing from every corner of the room. "The truth is deeper than shadows. You have to face it." Her breath came in ragged gasps. A chilling fear gripped her heart, pulsating with each frantic beat. She stumbled backward, crashing against a wall that felt unnaturally warm, as if the stone walls absorbed all the anguish. What truth? What did he want her to confront? She knew the memories were distorted, twisted by her own mind, but they were her memories nonetheless. "Fight or flight, Sarah," he pressed, emerging from the shadows like a wraith. "You can't hide from what you've created." A sudden vision struck her, a memory of friendship twisted by betrayal. Faces rushing back, laughter morphing into deafening silence. Images blended with her imagination, weaving nightmares into fabric so real, she felt she could reach out and touch them. The walls around her started to pulse, vibrating with the weight of unspoken truths. The time for confrontation was near, but whether it would save her or seal her fate was a question that gnawed at her. Will you choose to acknowledge the monsters you've ignored, or will they consume you? Tommy whispered, inches from her face, his eyes aflame with both rage and sorrow. Sarah's heart raced. The shadows pressed in thick and heavy. She had to decide. In a heartbeat, she realized the truth could either be her salvation or her doom. Would she have the courage to confront the very essence of her pain? And then the air shifted, crackling with a tension she couldn't ignore. She felt the darkness pulsate, a heart beating just beneath the surface of her resolve. Was she ready to face it all? A sound erupted from behind her, cracking like the shattering of glass. Something was breaking free. Sarah, Tommy called, a blend of urgency and dread. You have to choose now. The choice loomed like a specter, dark and true, ready to snatch her away. What would it cost her to uncover the truth, and would she ever come back from it? The choice echoed in Sarah's mind like a drumbeat, loud and relentless. Shadows writhed around her, wrapping tight, whispering promises of release if only she'd succumb. But deep within the chaos, a flicker of defiance ignited as she clutched the memory of laughter, the warmth of love that had once filled her world. No, she shouted, her voice piercing the darkness like a ray of light. I won't be guided by fear. The words felt like armor, pushing back against the suffocating weight around her. Tommy's face twisted, the shadows contorting his features into something monstrous. You think you can escape? You're part of this. You made your choices, abandoned those who loved you. His voice rose, layered with anguish, a piercing reminder of all she had tried to bury. But she could feel her heart steadying, each pulse whispering that she was still in control. You're right, she breathed, steady now, the emotion bubbling up, fierce and raw. I can't change the past, but I can face it. With every ounce of strength, Sarah stepped forward, ready to confront the shadows her fears materialized amongst the cruel laughter. Fragments of memories broke the surface, spiraling and flashing before her, her friends' faces distorted by betrayal, their cries rippling through the darkness like shockwaves. I'm here, she cried, eyes wide open. I hear you. I'm not going to run any longer. The shadows hissed and shrieked, lunging as if to suffocate her. But surrounded by love from the past, she stood firm. I'm sorry, she yelled, grief and guilt spilling from her lips like a torrent. I should have been with you all. I abandoned you when you needed me the most, and I'm sorry. The air shifted, the grotesque forms around her hesitating for just a heartbeat, as if unsure whether to recoil or advance. And in that moment of stillness, the light flickered, illuminating the faces trapped within the darkness, her friends. The lifelines she had cut away were now mere shadows, stretching out in search of her recognition. Sarah, they urged, their voices rising in unity. Help us find peace. Inspiration surged like wildfire. If she could admit her failures and face them, maybe they could find release too. I see you. I hear you. I remember you. Together we can heal. The shadows momentarily shuddered, the weight of despair staggering under the strength of acceptance. With outstretched arms, she embraced not only her lost friends but her own guilt. She stepped through the clinging darkness, certainty washing over her. Stop hiding, all of you, she said loudly, her voice ringing out with newfound certainty. Stand with me. We can confront the truth together. The walls began to pulse with energy, revealing splashes of light that pushed back the shadows, illuminating the twisted images of her soul. We can break free, she reaffirmed, pulling strength from the memories of laughter and warmth that had once surrounded them. Gradually, the tendrils of darkness receded, shrieking discontent as bright lights surged forward, washing over them like cleansing rain. The faces of her friends emerged brighter, softer. Sarah, Tommy's voice broke through, a mixture of hope and solitude. You chose wisely. The scorn twisted into gratitude, melting away the darkness. No more lies. No more masks, Sarah whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. She felt a shift in the air, a release of pent-up energy as they began to coalesce, shadows mingling with light, a harmony forged through acceptance. "Thank you," they echoed softly, each face filled with relief. With flickers of glowing warmth, they began to dissolve into the brightness together, freeing themselves from the shackles of despair. "You've brought us peace." As her friends dissipated, flooding the room with light, Sarah felt the remnants of their pain evaporate, that crushing weight lifting from her soul. She finally understood accepting her past didn't mean it defined her. It empowered her to move forward. The shadows that had tormented her were now mere wisps, evaporating against the brightness that burned in her heart. "Goodbye, my friends," she whispered, her voice now steadied. "You're free." And with that, the last of the darkness melted away, leaving Sarah standing alone amid the brilliance. The air sparkled, fresh and clean, weightless, full of hope. She breathed deeply, feeling alive in a way she hadn't in years. In that golden glow, she found her resolve. It was time to return, to face her reality, and reclaim her life. There was joy, love, and a purpose waiting just beyond those hospital walls. And as she stepped forward, the dizzying abyss of shadows dispersed entirely, ushering in a new dawn, brighter than any she had ever known. It was finished. The journey had reshaped her spirit, awakened the truth, and healed wounds she had thought irreparable. She turned back one last time, whispering a silent prayer for her friends. "Now I'll make it count." As she moved towards the exit, her heart fluttered. They were gone, yet their importance would echo in her life forever. True freedom was finally within grasp, and she was ready to embrace it fully. A flicker of hope ignited inside her, encouraging her steps to quicken as she burst out into the world, the sky above clearing as a new beginning dawned upon her. She would carry the lessons learned boldly, fiercely, and the darkness would never trouble her again. But as she stepped outside, a final echo of laughter swept across the horizon, a gentle reminder that shadows could return. It was a part of her truth. Yet, fear had no power here. Hope would always win, and that truth was her beacon. Now, if you've enjoyed this heart-pounding conclusion, you need to subscribe immediately to this channel so you don't miss the next exclusive story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and support our journey together. Flood the comments section with your thoughts, reactions, and theories. We want to hear from you about what you think of Sarah's journey. And don't you dare wait another second. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Remember, only true fans understand how important it is to support the channel through these actions. Let us bring more stories to life together.